Hello, and welcome back to my Astro Imaging Journey channel. Today, gonna go over a couple nice comments and another Q&A session. Really love getting these questions in the comments, so please keep that up. If I mispronounce any names in here, I sincerely apologize. So, first comment comes from Pablo Vasquez. Nice video. You have a much better cable management skills than me. All right, Pablo, that's just 20 plus years in IT. And you know, it helps if you have a little OCD as well. That was one of the first things I did once I started figuring out how I wanted to use the rig and where I wanted to mount everything, was get that cable management worked out. There's a few videos out there where you can see the cables get caught up on like your azimuth adjustment knobs and different things, and next thing you know, it either hits those clutches, those slip clutches, and doesn't go any further, and it causes tracking issues and imaging problems. And hey, if that happens in the middle of the night and you're asleep, you just lost how many hours worth of data. So that was key for me. Help satisfy a little bit of that OCD I have, as well as, it's part of my job to make sure that, hey, everything's as neat and tidy as I can. And frankly, rat's nests are no fun when you have to actually go out and try to find, what cable's going to where, and if you got to replace one and you got to trace it through all that junk. Been there, done that, learned my lesson. Next question here is from Lamar Vasquez. Hello there, I have a question. I just ordered my Moonlight focuser. I see one of your videos you were talking about a star mask. Do you have a video where you use the star mask with the settings in Sequence Generator Pro on the Moonlight focuser? Thank you, keep up the great videos. Now, he said star mask, and star mask to me meant PixInsight. He meant the Batnoff mask. So he went in after some comments there, some back and forth in the comments. He then later replied, LOL, sorry about that. I was trying to ask, were you comparing the autofocus from the Moonlight focuser with the Batnoff mask on your telescope? To get certain numbers to put into Sequence Generator Pro to have perfect stars when it's autofocusing, it has to make a V shape, like 200 steps, and the star HWM, half width max, 25,000. My question was, did you figure out the numbers using the Batnoff mask? Okay, Lamar, thank you for your questions. And thank you for the exchange in the comments. I really enjoyed that. So, basically, and I'm going to try to not use basically as much, the easiest way to do it that I've found, take that focuser all the way in to 0. Then, using the adjustments, either go to a button in Sequence Generator Pro or the software from Moonlight, and move it out, and keep an eye on where it stops moving. Okay, and then look at the value on the steps that are needed. Okay, I'm going to be doing a video here hopefully tomorrow on this specifically to address this question. But I did also do it in the comments where I laid out the step-by-step process that he could be going through. So please check out the comments. I forget which video that was on, but if you want to see those step-by-step procedures, or check out the video that's going to be coming up here. Not sure when it'll get posted, but I'm hoping to record it tomorrow, and then when I get to edit, I'll be able to get that edited and uploaded. So the short version is, run it in all the way to 0, run it out until you see it to stop, that's your range of steps. Okay, so in my particular case, it was like 0 to 4,200. So I'm just using 4,000 since it's a nice round number. Okay, and then what we want to do is go to half, because when the temperature gets colder, it needs to go in, and when it gets warmer, it needs to go out. And you're going to have some variations in temperature throughout the night. Okay, so we go to that midpoint. In my case, 2,000. Once it's at 2,000, we put the Bahtinov mask on, and then we do a rough focus using the adjustment knobs on the Edge HD, the manual adjustment knobs. Lock down that mirror, and then go back into Sequence Generator Pro, and then in the video you'll see we need to step out until the stars get bloated and the values are roughly double. If you're using not an SCT, but something with a shorter focal length like a refractor, you might even be able to go up to 3 times. But for the SCTs with the longer focal length, double is about where we need to be, as far as if we have a start value of 5.5, for example, then we need to get to around 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. Very rarely are you going to be able to get out to, in this particular case, 3 times, so 16, 17 and a half. You're just not going to see that value. Once it gets over 13, 14, it's just too bloated. The center has that nice center obstruction in there, so it just can't calculate those values. And so double is about where we need to be for the SCTs. So once you have that, and then it's just a matter of a little bit of math. Double the number of, I can't remember what the formula is right now, but I believe it's the number of steps that it took to get there times 2, and divide that by however many data points you want to take minus 1. Okay, the number of data points minus 1 is in the denominator of that fraction. Okay, so if we have, say, 9 data points, which seems to be a pretty good number, gives you 4 on this side and 4 on that side with 1 in the middle, so that would be 9. It gives you a good range. And then could we go 11, 13, something? Go with an odd number. Okay, you got to go with an odd number because you need that middle point, right? And then an even on the outside. So with 9, you've got the middle point, and then 4 on either side. We could go to those higher values, 11, 13, 15. And I tried that, and it didn't seem to work as well as 9 did. And 7 and 5 were just too few. So 9 was a good start. It was a good data point number. So we have 9 minus 8, or 9 minus 1 is 8, and then 8 into our value that we got for the steps. Okay, and I believe it's 2 times that. So if we had stepped out, let's say 160. 160 sounds like a good number. Then we double that. That is 320, and 320 divided by 8 is 40, and that would be our step size in SGP. So per data point, the step size is 40, and then it will move out 160 steps, move back in. The center point should be where you started, and then it'll move in even further, another 160 steps, taking an image at each point, taking those measurements on the stars, and hopefully you get that, not so much a V curve, it looks more like a rounded V, or like a very weird shaped U, but you should see the bottom 3 points be pretty close, and then the outer points be stepped up pretty good. Kind of like an inverse bell curve, or not a bell curve, but I think you get what I'm getting at here. So look for that video coming up. I'll be going through these steps and the math a little bit better. But to answer your question, yes, I used the batting off mask to get my initial focus at the midpoint in the focus or travel. After that, it's all SGP doing the autofocus routine. Okay, hope that answers your question. Next question comes from Ray's Astrophotography. Ray, if you're the one that's also over there on the Astro Imaging channel on Sunday nights, good to see you here. Appreciate it. He asks, if it was too windy, difficult to hold with those small pins, are you planning to leave when it is too hot and cold? Okay, sorry about that. I was having a little bit of trouble reading there and understanding the context. So this is in response to the video I did for my cheap temporary enclosure, aka the outhouse. Okay, so a couple videos ago I did an update on that, so kind of answered it in there, but specifically, are you planning to leave when it is, so I'm assuming you mean to say, are you planning to leave it out, meaning the rig, when it is too hot and cold? Okay, so if that's what you're meaning, I'm gonna answer that. If it's something else, I apologize. Too hot and too cold. Too cold, that I'll bring the electronics in. I think the motor and the tripod will be okay to stay out there, but as far as the electronics, I think I'm gonna bring those in. 10 degrees is probably around where that's gonna be, 10 degrees Fahrenheit that is. 5 might be the low end. It depends on what the forecast for the night is. If it's 10 or above when I start the session, and it's not going to dip it down to 5 or somewhere in there until later in the evening, later overnight, then I'll probably leave it out there and do some imaging, since it'll be warmed up, for lack of a better term, from use from earlier in the evening. So as far as too cold, yes, I will bring in at least the electronics, meaning the OTA and everything attached to it, and the hand controller as well. I'll get to that in a second. Too hot. I was imaging last year in 95-degree weather, so too hot, I guess, if it gets to 100, I'm bringing it in. Because I know I don't want to be out there when it's that hot, and I know my camera's not going to be happy if it's that hot outside either. So yes, I will be planning on bringing it in if it's too hot or too cold. Clearly, if we have a chance to image, it's going to be one of those decide on the fly type situations. If I've already got it tore down because it was 3 degrees yesterday, let's say for example, and I've already brought everything inside, and tonight's supposed to be down to 5, but it's a clear night, I'm probably not going to go through the hassle of taking it out there and getting everything set back up, knowing that the next night I'm not going to be able to image. I'll sacrifice one night worth of imaging. So it's one of those, got to play it by ear, but I think my lower limit's going to be 5 to 10 degrees, and my upper limit's going to be 90, 95 plus. As long as we stay in between those two values and below 25, 30 mile an hour gusting winds and below 4 to 6 inches of snow, I think I can leave my gear out there with that thing and it'll be perfectly fine. So thanks, Ray, for your question. See you on the Astro Imaging channel Sunday night. Ray Bradley says, I'd be a little concerned with the fact that there's very little rigidity to those poles. They are meant to bend. That's why they fit in the box. Any way to attach guidelines higher up on the walls to give it more stability. I explored a lot of not a real observatory options and went with a 6x6 shelter logic shed. It secures down with very sturdy ground augers and it's rock solid. When I image, I unclip the 2 front legs and flip the whole shed back on its side and vice versa. Okay, Steve, yep, looked at that. Great solution. Happy for you. Glad it's working out for you. For me, that is a 6x6 roughly concrete pad that it's sitting on. So augers would not work for me in this particular instance. I wouldn't be able to secure it down as much as I would like to. And if it's the one I'm thinking of, they kind of interlock and everything. So without the base, the walls don't interlock as well, I think is what I'm trying to say. So, and then they turn flimsy as a result. So, I looked at getting angle iron and polymer plastic, 4x8 sheets of plastic, almost like siding material or wainscoting type material to try to lessen the weight so that I could have a base that was static that I could attach to the concrete and then a top that I could lift off. I tried a bunch of, I had a bunch of ideas in my head, and in the end it came down to I don't want a shed looking thing sitting out there in the front yard, and by I mean Tina. Nope, I'm not complaining. She is right. I'm listening to the voice of that reason. And it's in the middle of the front yard, and it would look like an eyesore. So, and when it comes time to resell the house, if that point ever comes, I'd have to tear it out anyways. I could leave the concrete there, but I was looking for a different solution, while ultimately the end goal is to find a spot somewhere else in the yard or next to the house where I can do some type of an observatory with a pier, and so that once I pull our line, but at that point I won't have to worry about it again. So this seems to be working for me, and again, this was in reference to the outhouse video, and he mentions the rigidity of the poles. Yes, they are very flimsy, but they held up in the wind pretty good. Is there any way to attach guidelines higher up? No, there's not, unfortunately. They're all encased into some of the canvas or the fabric, so unfortunately there's no way to attach it higher up, at least reliably. And as far as the pins that go into the ground, like Ray was asking, I make mention that in my update video. I'm going to either replace those with larger tent pegs, or the stakes you put in the ground to keep your dog from running loose in the neighborhood, those would work real well as well. So that's two options I'm going to look at here in a few weeks when I get back to a store that will carry them. Middle of winter, they're not carrying a lot of outdoor stuff right now, so that'll be coming a little bit later in the spring, I think. And our last question comes from Chris Thompson. Great videos, love the channel. What guide scope do you use? Helical focuser. What always found them hard to dial in? All right, Chris, thanks for the kind words. Thanks everybody for the kind words, by the way, not just Chris. What guide scope do I use? I use the Orion 60mm guide scope, plain and simple. Go on Amazon, search for that, and you'll find it. Yes, it is a helical focuser. That means the focuser is much like what you have on a camera lens, like the camera I'm videoing on right here. It twists along or on the outside of the barrel of the telescope, as opposed to knobs on the outside moving the point in and out. You're focusing it this way, causing it to move in and out. Okay, so it's a little ring that encompasses the back of the telescope to move that focus point in and out. So are they hard to dial in? Yes, they are. That's why I would probably never use one for the primary optic, not without some type of mechanical system like the Moonlight or any of those other options out there. That being said, everything that I've read and watched in regards to PhD2, the guiding likes it to actually be a little bit out of focus. So getting perfect focus, that's fine. If it's not perfectly focused due to it being a helical focuser, that's perfectly fine. The reason that I've read and heard about why is with it being slightly out of focus, it's going to widen out that star. It's going to cause it to be a little bit bloated, smooth it out a little bit, and one, it helps combat seeing a little bit, and because if you go with the longer exposure times, say like 1.5 to 2 seconds, you get a larger star, so to be able to better find a center for that star, number one, and number two, it helps combat those scenes and ultimately guide a little bit further or a little bit better. I got a little tongue twisted there, sorry, but yeah, the experts anyways that I've come across say a little bit out of focus is actually a good thing. Perfectly focused, just fine as well. It's when you're way out of focus that it becomes a problem. Yep, they are hard to dial in, but in this particular case, it may actually work in our favor if what I've heard and read is actually true. And it's been working for me. I've always dialed in as good a focus as I can get, and then I back off just a hair and lock it in. And so far my guiding's been pretty good. I won't say perfect, because we're never going to get perfect, but through 2-3 minute subs, it's been rock solid. 5 minute subs, I need to work. I think it's more on my polar alignment, because it's more drift than it is guiding. So that's something I got to work on. But that is all the questions and comments we have for this episode. I appreciate everybody's comments, everybody's kind words. Can't thank you enough. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Again, hit that like button if you like this. Smash that subscribe button if you so choose. Hit that bell if you want to get notified of more videos when I upload them. And as always, please keep those comments coming, and keep doing you and making the images that you want to make, because that's the point of this hobby, right? Is to do what we want to do, not because somebody else did it and it looked good for them, because we enjoy it and we want to do this for ourselves. So keep up the good work. I will see you in the next video, and clear skies. Have a good one.